Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Wednesday, January 15th, 2025 edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the WellPoint Studios with my special guest for today's show. You recognize this guy. He is the chief cook and bottle washer for the city of Lowell. The man in charge, city manager Tom Golden, is with us.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Panos. How are you, sir?
I'm doing Mr. Panos. Wow.
Well, I actually saw the real Mr. Panos the other day. So
yes, you saw the real boss.
The real boss. I know. And that's not your sister.
No, she thinks she is, but she is not. Thank you for joining us here today. We got a lot to talk about, including a meeting last night, which I believe was the death knell for the Smith-Baker Center in its current incarnation, what comes next and how that process comes about, I want to focus on, and a lot of other things. So we thank you for joining us here in the WellPoint Studios. Just quickly want to thank our sponsors here at Inside Lowell, Real Estate Ray Booten, sponsor of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse. If you're looking to buy or sell a home or a commercial property in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, Real Estate Ray Booten is your man. If you're looking to have that property appraised in both of those states, Real Estate Ray Booten is also your man. Learn more online at realestaterayBooten.com. And of course, I'd be remiss without thanking our friends at WellPoint as we sit here in the WellPoint Studios. WellPoint is the only healthcare plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. And we'll talk more about some of our Inside Lowell podcast sponsors, but let's get right to it with City Manager Tom Golden. And I should let folks know that if you want to leave some feedback on this discussion, we are happy to share it on our next episode tomorrow, where we'll have State Auditor Diana DeZoglio joining us. But in the meantime, with you, Mr. Manager, first of all, tough couple of days at City Hall. You lost an employee in a tragic accident up in Atkinson, New Hampshire. And I know a lot of folks were familiar with the woman. I was hearing on
𝐿𝐼 was a wonderful, wonderful person. And truthfully, that's what I think every I'll say friend, manager, department head wants in an employee. She is somebody that walks down, was walking down the corridors, always smiling. That person that actually stopped and said, "Hey, can I help you?" Pointing people into the right direction. And I'll tell you, it's a tough one because she was so talented, so she was loved.
Yeah, certainly was. And our condolences to 𝐼𝐼 and her entire family and loved ones. Also found out yesterday that Connor Baldwin, your CFO's mom, passed away way too young. Any age is too young. That's right. Way too young. So our condolences as well to Mr. Baldwin and his family and his loved ones. And of course, I worked with Connor's dad for many years at WCP.
Jack was
Jack Baldwin,
Jack and Judy
as well.
Good people. And you know something, as my parents would always say, when you see the children and you understand this, they come from the old saying was good stock, right? And Jack and Judy Baldwin, wonderful people, and they have a wonderful son. And I know that Judy had an opportunity to talk with her. Very proud of her son and everything that. And as we are, he does a fabulous job for the city.
Good, and let's hope this is it for a long time. That's in correct. Terms of loss at City Hall. It makes it tough, to go. And I imagine you forge these relationships after so many years, and you get to know the families, and particularly the employee in terms of 𝐼𝐼. So our condolences here from everyone here at Inside Lowell to the Baldwin and the Mazzetti family. Smith-Baker Center. That vote was closer than I thought last night. I looked at that report on Friday when it came out with the council agenda, and I'm like, well, this will make it pretty unanimous, except maybe for Paul Ratayam, who was desperately trying to save that building. But it was close. It was 6-4 with one abstention.
Right.
Did that surprise you? Did that vote come out the way you wanted it to come out?
To me, it's always a challenge. I mean, whatever we're doing in the city, whatever the council's wish is, we would move towards the goal. And, from the goal's perspective, I believe the council, it was a hard vote for them because nobody wants to take a piece of history. But the unfortunate piece, it's been over 24 years that there hasn't really been any investment in that particular building. The older buildings, the older style buildings, the churches and whatnot, they don't really lend themselves to being able to give it to a developer to say, hey, let's do this. When you walk in there, there's really different shaped rooms, funky, small rooms. And when you say, well, just take the walls down, being in real estate that I've been in for a number of years, it's not that easy. It's not always that simple. And then put on top of it the amount of decay, decrepitness, problems and issues, the repointing of brick. I've had that opportunity to look at brick buildings that I've managed over the years, and repointing brick is no joke, especially when you get into towers and you know the way they built these pieces, the Gothic style, if you would, you know. But it's not an easy vote. Nothing like that ever is easy. I think that the council did the right thing. I think that we'll look to see what we could put there in the future. I think that it's time to move forward.
So what's the time frame here? So the vote was to demolish the building.
That's right.
How soon does that happen? Given the fact that the building is some kind of physical danger, do you still have to put netting up in the meantime, or can you get this demolition moving pretty quickly?
We'll move quickly. We'll put it out to RFP, find out, and, you know, then we have to.
It costs money to demolish this, right? It's not just going to fall on its own.
Oh, I hope it.
We can't have citizens take sledgehammers and take their frustrations out on it. No,
you wouldn't want to do that. I've been in the building. It's tough. It's a tough building, but we'll put it out for RFP, find out when that can happen. I would assume, I'm making an assumption here, we'll put money aside from free cash that's been just rectified, and some of that free cash could, you know, take it down and then create something there. The difficult part is that at the end of the day, when we take it down, we're probably going to owe more money on it than it's actually worth. So the city at some point will take a little bit of a hit financially. Typically, we would buy something to want to sell it to make money, right?
Right.
That's not going to happen in this situation.
What's the demolition cost? Did I hear correctly at one meeting? $2 million?
$1 to $2.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
just
$1
to
to
tear
$2
down a
million.
building.
Yeah.
Can we do a cool explosion like they did in those old football stadiums?
I don't even know if they do that anymore.
No. It'd be so,
but it would be. I mean,
it would be so we could sell tickets to that and maybe.
If somebody comes in and says this is how we're going to do it, but my guess is, unfortunately, it'd be the wrecking ball.
Okay. So developers will then be brought in to give proposals for what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. Given the fact that there was some covenant placed on it, that it has to be, if it's not affordable housing, the city then has to turn around and give $470,000 to, is it the state?
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So does that mean that we're going to see affordable housing in there with maybe, I don't know, a first floor retail use?
Yeah,
or
we're probably, I mean, what the council's push has been is the affordable home ownership opportunities. And I think given the fact that up in the Acre, we're just very happy with Acre Crossing, what's happening there. Over by Charlie Kentakis, for all of our listeners of my age, will know where I call it Kentakis Corner. I probably will for the remainder of my life, but there is a sister building that's going next to there, and it's going to be affordable home ownership. What our strive is to really, from the council's perspective, the administration's perspective, is to push affordable home ownership. We do have, and I'll say this, and I know people won't like this, we have plenty of affordable rentals throughout the city. We have plenty of rentals. We need to get more into home ownership, and that affordable home ownership, I think the proof is in the pudding. I think that what we've done, which I'm proud to say I was a part of, out on Gorham Street when Shaughnessy Terrace was recreated. If you go out there, that is an unbelievable, beautiful neighborhood that was created out there.
If you could be, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Sure.
Please explain to folks out there what affordable home ownership is as opposed to affordable housing, which would be an apartment or rental type thing. I'm familiar with it because I actually lived in such a unit in 6 months. And I know that the young lady who benefited from that house and rented it from me while she was selling it, she accumulated some nice little wealth from this opportunity. So
all of it works a tad differently. So I want to be clear. I'm painting with a very broad brush. So if something were worth $100,000, the affordability factor would kick in, and maybe you're going to purchase it in and around the 70% mark, so $70,000. Those numbers are not true. I just want to be clear on that. I could use the numbers up north at the Acre revitalization piece, the Acre Crossing. But I'm just trying to get the point across where if something were built for $100,000, you're purchasing it for 70. The city usually comes in and try to help to buy down your interest rate to make it affordable. At that point in time, you're probably making anywhere between 80% to 100 or 110% of federal poverty limits, the FPL, for the area. That means that they're looking at your dollars, what you make every day, and spending approximately, once again, 33% to 35% of your take-home pay on renting or slash owning. And that's where the affordable home ownership. Now, it sounds like a great windfall, and it really is, because as somebody that's been in the business for a better part of 30 years, I've coached people out of renting from me, renting from people that I had to say, you're paying X dollars here, you could own something here. So that is how this works. Now, the covenant goes, and the young lady that you rented from while she was selling it, when she, depending on the number of years, and it depends on the program, but she bought it for, and I'm saying, once again, as an example, 75%. She bought it at 75% of market. When she sold it, she probably sold it for 80% of market, maybe a tad more. She made money, right? But Teddy Panos, the young guy that came out of UMass Lowell, he had the opportunity to buy an affordable unit. But she was paying down her debt over the 5 years, 10 years, however long she owned it. So the delta there is money in her pocket to go, what did that woman do? Did she go buy a home?
She ended up getting married and bought a home with...
And that's what it's supposed to do.
It's in short, this is how generational wealth is created, for those who don't know it. Because if you're always renting and you're struggling just to pay your rent, or you're even like buying a home, but you have to buy it at the top dollar, and and now you're pouring in mortgage and interest, even when you sell it for a profit afterwards, it's still tough. And then you've got to buy another home. This allows you that cushion, that profit margin, to take somebody who ordinarily couldn't afford a home, or in this case, they'd be condos, right? Affordable home ownership in like a Smith Baker setting would be like a condo, right?
Right. In downtown, it'd be a condo. But when we're talking about Shaughnessy Terrace, when we're talking about River's Edge, which is out.
It was a house.
That's a house.
Yeah.
So you have
beautiful 3-bedroom house I lived in, brand new.
Yeah, single family home, and that person, I'm sure, sold it, and with whatever she paid down, with whatever she made, there was a delta there. But yet, when I say young Teddy Panos coming out of UMass Lowell, wherever you were at that FPL limit, you bought it for a little bit less, and then in the future generations, you're going to sell it. You're going to make that 20, 30 grand, 40 grand. You're going to go and buy a nice single family or 2-family, whatever, that you're going to live in. And that is what generational wealth is doing.
So that kind of cap, that carries on to the next owner. I didn't realize that. I thought the first owner got all the profit.
Oh, no. It can, but
okay.
it's a time frame. So that's why there's different programs for different, some are permanent, some are 15 years. So it depends on what and I hate to say this, but the flavor of the Commonwealth at the time is. Is it a 15-year covenant? Is it a 30-year? Is it a lifetime covenant of affordability? But it's always based around federal poverty, FPLs, and a percentage of that. Who can afford what can afford it?
Okay. So ultimately, this is kind of what you'd like to see there, but you've got to put it out for an RFP, and will that RFP specifically mention this type of thing? Or what if somebody comes up with the money and says, I kind of like that idea of, let's call it a Cambodian history museum, or whatever else, or the Kerouac Museum, or whatever the case is going to be. Can you, as the city...
The city can look at it to see which is more advantageous. Okay. We can, when we put things out under 30B. But from this perspective, the way I'm looking at it, once again, we need housing. And once again, I challenge folks, because if we're really trying to help people get out of poverty, we have to give them that ladder to get out of poverty. And that affordable home ownership program is the way to go. Once again, in the hundreds of people, and I say hundreds over the years, of managing units and things of that nature, there are a lot of people that don't want to own. And I've talked to, the Teddys and the Tommies and the Timmies and the Marys and everything else. They want nothing to do with it. Their lifestyle is that they're jet setters. They're every dime they get, they travel the world. They do this, they do that. Hey, Tom, I'm going to be gone for a month. Can you check in on this? Can you make sure I'm gone while I'm gone? There are a whole bunch of people like that. And then there are a whole bunch of people that are just trying to get by with their day-to-day lives. We say, living paycheck to paycheck. And I think we're doing a great job with that, with some of the developments that we have coming that we've been discussing, as well as, folks like Wind Development. Wind Development's done a fabulous job with affordable rentals. So we have a mishmash, if you would, of housing opportunities in the Lowell. But I think from the administration standpoint, from the council standpoint, that what we really need to continue to concentrate on, and we have been, is that affordable home ownership as well as market rate rentals.
So if you had to take a guess at a time frame. What are we looking at here between
That's the biggest curveball.
demolition
Yeah.
and I mean, you can put together the RFPs, I guess, while the demolition is still going through that process.
No, well, the RFPs you got to remember, we got an RFP just to demolish it.
Right. Okay.
There's this nasty little thing in the state that we have to do that stuff, which is good.
Well, it's a $1 to $2 million contract, so it makes sense.
You know, this is kind of, how this operates is Teddy's in construction. Teddy, what is that going to ballpark that for me? What, Teddy Construction or Tommy Construction or whatever, what they don't know is they're not inside looking at, the lead paint, the asbestos, etc. What needs to happen, what needs to come out. So there's where your challenge is. So when we're ballparking this, I'm asking you just to eye it, to say, what do you think? Well, history tells us, or the market tells us, per square foot, per linear, per height, per this, it should cost that. And that's kind of where, and that's a big delta. Because once again, you don't know what you're going to find once you start taking this down, and you just can't drop the building and then say, well, the heck with it. So.
Right. We're chatting with Lowell City Manager Tom Golden. He's joining us here in the WellPoint Studios. We'll continue our discussion here on the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse. Want to quickly remind you that the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse is brought to you by Real Estate Ray Booten. If you're looking to buy or sell a home or a commercial property, or to have that property appraised in either the Commonwealth of Massachusetts or the Granite State of New Hampshire, Real Estate Ray Booten is your man. realestaterayBooten.com is the web address. Thank you to our friends at WellPoint as we're coming to you from the WellPoint Studios at WellPoint. Your whole health is their whole point. Our friends at the Washington Savings Bank, a community bank in every way. They gave me this mug just for opening an account there. Right now, you open a checking account, a qualified checking account, they'll give you a free roadside emergency kit, a AAA roadside emergency kit. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI, and they're doing commercial spaces as well. Hopefully our friends at Mill Number 5 will be relocating there soon, many of them. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925. That's a century, 100 years. Great local organization, even better people. Phenomenal family, do so much behind the scenes. Francis E. Prevention Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on since 1982. And by the Massachusetts Pirates, bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Tsongas Center. Opening game of the 2025 season, March 21st at the Tsongas Center. Let's go across the street from the Tsongas Center, Mr. Manager. Lowell High School.
Yes.
First chance we've had to talk about these well-publicized issues with things failing in the building, bleachers that are scratching the floors, door handles that are falling off. How bad is that situation over there?
No, it's always bad. People expect when you buy something brand new that it's going to work exactly the way it should. And as I said last night, this should not have had to go to the council. There are a number of punch list items, and once again, being in real estate, having that opportunity or having worked in the business is always a punch list. But the punch list that stays open forever and a day, that's where the problem kind of lies. And I think I was clear with that last night with the council, just saying this should never have gotten to that level. It really shouldn't have. So we're actually in the process right now of calling in the heads of the three companies to say enough is enough. Sometimes, in this construction business, you have Teddy blaming Tommy, Tommy blaming Danny, Danny blaming Larry, Larry blaming Mary, this circular piece that it wasn't my fault. And that's just not acceptable. I spoke with the MSBA. I've been in contact with them. I mean, we have monthly meetings on this. This is it's always televised, the MSBA subcommittee. So a lot of this stuff is out there, and we're always waiting on a part. And it just seems, I'll tell you, people will roll their eyes, or ever since COVID, it seems, I never remember waiting for a part. And it's just, I don't know if it's a convenient thing now. Oh, I don't know, the part's not in yet. But that's not acceptable. What has been happening over there, I think that the good that's happening over there, the good hard work, that the beautiful building that we are putting together, that far outweighs these nicks and knacks and problems. But I expect to have a meeting with the three owners, because typically we're dealing with the project supervisors, which are doing a fine job. But the three owners will be coming in and we'll be having this discussion of the companies to say enough is enough. These punch lists need to continue to get accomplished.
All right. The counselors seemed kind of taken aback. I was aware of the bleacher issues. I watched the December 19th school building committee meeting because I was told, go look at where that contingency fund is. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But I learned at that meeting, when they roll out the bleachers, they scratch the floor, which was mind-numbing to me. Why would you install bleachers that scratch a floor?
Why would you design something? Well,
exactly. Yeah. Why would you design bleachers that come out and block certain exits and entrances? When did you have a grasp on these issues? And should you have told the councils sooner?
You know, we're going to get into a quarterly report, but you know, you always make an assumption that everyone's watching all of these meetings, these meetings that we have with the SPC. So that's on me to make sure that that punch list is reported to the council. Now, once again, though, that's probably not something that they need. That's my worry to worry about in hitting those punch list pieces. So, in full responsibility from my end, that is something that we meet with the SPC. The SPC has this discussion. We're going to be looking at sending the council an updated version. The council has enough going on. You know, they don't need to be going to every single meeting. That's my job. So I'll have to take that in the sense of what are the issues, what are the challenges, what are the problems, and just updating them on a regular basis. Thinking that everybody has that time to, like you were watching that meeting, you know, they can go anywhere from sometimes swimmingly 15, 20 minutes to an hour. It just depends on what the challenges are of that day. So that's something that from the administration standpoint, we'll make sure that the council knows that without having to actually sit and watch it. And to anyone that says, well, they should be that is not the case at all. That is the job of the administration. The job of the administration is to ensure that the council knows all of these things.
But there's councils who like to keep
but that's fine.
Things.
You know, I mean, because the more people that we have looking and watching, I think that's good. You know, all of this discussion, we consistently every day when I wake up, and I know my team, I've already, you know, it's very early in the morning here, but I've already talked to everybody on my team. We strive to make perfect every single day. You know, we're striving to ensure that not just the Lowell High School, not just the city, but the city as a whole, to make sure that we're doing it better than we did yesterday. And the council is, those are the folks that hold everyone's feet to the fire, including mine. When people call the council, they expect results, and that's on the administration standpoint to make sure that you know, it's not just good enough any longer. And I really take this study from what I learned over, once again, decades of being a property manager. I've spoke with people about almost letting them go as a private person. Well, it's good enough. It's not good enough. This is someone's home. We have to make sure that we're consistently making it better. And I'm proud to say that that's how I operated my private business, and that's how we're trying to operate here in the city. But, you know, we need to strive for perfection every day. When we fall short, we just need to continue doing it day in, day out. And quite frankly, I think our team in the past 2.5 years has been doing that. I think that this council has allowed us financially, the financial ability to spend money on things that quite frankly hasn't been happening for a long time.
Right. I was watching that December 19th meeting, and there was a part there where they started talking about contingency funds and where we are, how much has been used. Yep. I believe about 65% is the number, but we're now starting to get into the real challenging part of the reno. And the question was asked of, I believe, Mr. Dowd, how confident are you that you can bring it under the budget? And we're confident. The tone of his voice and the look in the face didn't exude confidence to me.
Right.
How confident are you that with all these problems that need to be fixed now, plus whatever else is going to arise that's unforeseen, a lot of unforeseen things, happens in every construction project. Right. I get it, but how confident are you that this thing's going to come in at the budget that is now, we've since adjusted since COVID?
I'm confident that we're going to be proud of the product, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to show. Well, let me follow. I'm not going to shortchange it. You know, I'm not going to shortchange this, and we are going to make sure that the product that this city deserves, the children deserve, and this council wants is a product that we can all be proud of. These, I'll call them 22 punch list items. I was on the phone with Skanska. Now, just to reiterate, Skanska is the city, right? We hired Skanska to ensure that they keep their finger on the pulse of all of the subs and everybody else. So in talking with Skanska, even this morning, we talked about, where are we with the 22 items of punch list. They're working on it. They'll get us an updated list. We shouldn't have that. That's wrong in itself. But I think that to sit here and say what's going to happen within the next 2 years, I can't say that. But I'll tell you what, we're going to be proud of what we built.
Okay, so that punch list to repair those 22 items is going to cost some money, right?
It depends.
That money's going to come out of somebody's budget.
Well, once again, it depends, because if it's found to be faulty, like for instance, in regards to the bleachers, right? There was only one roller. There should have been three. I don't want to get into the technicalities of how, when it's so long, it needs to have three rollers, not just one, three motors, not just one. Who made that mistake, right? So that's where all monies come from. It has to be proven by the person that put it in. I told you that wasn't going to work. So that's where the push and pull come back and forth. People will put things in that they want to be reimbursed for that oftentimes have said, no. I could get into specific examples that, well, we did it this way. Well, you weren't supposed to do it that way. Yeah, but it was quicker. Well, that's on you, not me. If you're dropping a wall, you need to drop it in an appropriate way so you're not, contaminating the whole pile of whatever it would be, brick or whatever. Well, it was quicker for us to do that. Well, I understand that, but that's on you. You contaminated something the entire way. We're not paying for the full contamination. Mm-hmm. So that's what Skanska does. And, I could show you where they redline things. Panos Construction puts in for $100 because they bought more screws. Well, why did you buy more screws? This is how into the details it gets.
Okay. But in fairness to these groups, I could, if I'm with them, I'm like, well, you told me this has to be done. This phase has to be done. This is the deadline you set for me because kids have to be in those classrooms in late August or September this year. You created that time frame. That's why I had to rush. That's why I had to.
So I'll push.
So yeah. So but this is where, But this is where it's going to get messy when it's determined who's going to pay. Is it going to come out of the contingency? And what happens if the contingency is used and now you still got to finish the rest of it?
So let me give you that example. My hunch is
buckle up, Lowell taxpayers and state taxpayers.
Let me give you the example of what you just brought up, right? So if you're talking about Teddy Panos in charge of putting that wall up, very rarely does, Panos Construction have four guys sitting there like this, waiting for, well, we can't go because the electricians didn't go. Yeah, the electricians didn't finish their work, or the plumbers didn't finish their work, and God, somebody will watch this and say, we're always ready. That's not my point. My point is, very rarely is it just the fact that we're waiting on somebody else. Sometimes it's, well, my guys are at another place. They're going to come over. They're a day late. They're 2 days late. They're 3 days late. This is a construction thing that's constantly ebbing and flowing. So is it sometimes the project's fault? Yeah. It definitely is. I mean, it's a huge project, right? $389 million of issues, problems, percentages. Sometimes it's the subcontractor. Sometimes Teddy calls in sick. Tommy calls in sick, or Teddy and Tommy needed to run down to Burlington to fix something, and they weren't readily available. So therefore, they're trying to push, well, we have to bring Tommy in for overtime. Well, wait a minute. They were supposed to be here on Tuesday. That's what Skanska does. Skanska is the check guy looking around. Where's Teddy and Tommy today? How come they're not here? They're in Burlington. Okay. They try to put them in for Saturday overtime? No, we're not doing that. That comes out of you. That comes out of the company. So that constant push and pull about who's responsible to pay, who's not responsible to pay, why are we paying too much? Why, there's never a situation where we're not paying enough. I can tell you that. It's people always pushing to use that contingency, and Skanska is the person that puts the stop sign up.
Okay, so you're confident that we're going to have a building we can be proud of, and
we're going to be proud of the building. I think I'm cautiously optimistic we will be fine. But
so you're not guaranteeing this is coming in at that budget figure based on what you're seeing so far.
In my experience, no, I can't. I mean, we're still a complete 12, 18 months away.
I appreciate the honesty. I detected a little bit of hesitation in you last night when someone asked, is this going to be open? Is this going to be done in August of 2026, which is when the full facility is supposed to be handed over to the city? Again, kind of like Mr. Dow did on December 19th. We're confident, we're hopeful. But boy, was there some hesitation in your voice. Is it time to start worrying about that?
No, there's no worry. I mean, there's not going to be real worry here because it'll be available. But is it going to be available at the end of August? Is it going to be available in September? I can't answer that question yet. When we bring the heads of the families together to, talk about this. I mean, we are already behind schedule with the auditorium, and that's been announced. You know, there's always this. I can remember when I first got here, almost 2.5 years ago, coming on 3. In question, the gym bleachers. The bleachers weren't coming in. Okay. Oh, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to tell everyone immediately. And I think the bleachers, and please forgive me, I think they came from Nebraska, Iowa, someplace.
And if I remember correctly, they were installed like a day before you were supposed to open the facility and have your first sporting event.
But I mean, there was so much angst at telling people that there was a problem with the bleachers. Okay. I'm not talking about the scratching the floor, actually getting on site. We immediately told everybody saying, we're not, I'm not in the bleacher business. Panos bleachers out in Iowa, they need to send them to us. They're under contract. They're going to get here when they get here. We'll put them in. So I have no problem having a discussion next week with the heads of the companies to say, guys, where are we really? What is going to happen? Is it wise to push everybody to get something accomplished where it's just not going to be correct? Do we give ourselves a buffer of 2 weeks, 4 weeks? Do we bring people in overtime? Should we not? What is the cost to that? To get that done. Why is it so vitally important? Everybody wants to get in and get out. And there's no question about that. And if anyone's ever done a project in their house, does it run late? Does it run on time? I don't have that answer yet. So therefore I don't want to give you, by August of 26, don't worry about a thing. I can't with confidence say that, but I don't know personally. It's a lot of work. Should we just jam it down and fix things? No, I would have to say, no, take your time and do it right.
I would agree. And my theory is that at some point, if he gets pushed enough, Mr. Dow is going to say, you told me this is what you wanted and you wanted it done by this point. Right. That's the only hope we have.
But
is it better to just, that's true.
They bid it. So there's once again, there's push and pull. There's all this push and pull.
But there's always technicalities though, right?
You bid it. You said it would be done. But where are we really? I don't want something done halfway. Right. I don't want things that need to, punch lists are inevitable. And anybody in the construction industry knows punch lists are something that happen. That is a truth. That is a true statement. That's what happened. I don't want them. Okay. If it's going to give me another month or if it's another 2 weeks, it's not optimal, but what's better for the product? What's better for the citizens of Lowell at the end of the day?
If it has to be delayed by a month, 4 months or whatever to get a better finished product at the same cost, I think it's worth it. And I also want to be fair, because I asked it when I was talking to the mayor last week. I'm like, are there other school projects that are having these issues? I don't remember hearing it about Tewksbury, Billerica. And sure enough, one of my good sources in the high school construction industry, Deep Diploma, talk to me about Waltham High School.
One of these days, you're going to tell me who Deep Diploma is, but you never do.
No, we'll work on Deep Democrat, even though you guessed that.
I guess that one.
Waltham High School, $400 million project.
Same thing.
It just opened in October, which I believe fully in October was supposed to be open in August. Yep. But some of the classrooms, teachers and students complain that it's unbearably hot. It's 100 degrees. Other classrooms, teachers and students saying it's 50 degrees, we're cold, we got to wear coats, this is not a good learning environment. Now, we're talking about this at the Pawtucketville Memorial School and other Lowell schools, and we were talking about it at Lowell High in the old buildings. This is a brand new $400 million building, and the HVAC system isn't properly regulated for whatever reason. Is it user error? Is it not good equipment?
Our capabilities are far outreaching. We have to look forward here. And the council 𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐩𝐨𝐬 has brought this up. Other council have talked about this. Some of the HVAC equipment is beyond the ability of well beyond my ability, but well beyond somebody who has an HVAC license. Some of the stuff is so new. That's the quote unquote excuse that the company that puts it in is really the only people that can actually deal with it. Mm-hmm. Once again, being in property management, I've experienced where we've put in brand new heating systems, brand new systems throughout a larger building, where once again the Panos Heating and Cooling organization, they know that product. Tommy Golden Heating and Cooling doesn't necessarily know that product because they don't use Wheel McLean, they use Bryant or whatever the case may be. So we're really dealing with something that is the size of a power plant over there that we will be looking to bring on people just to deal with the high school, let alone the other 20 20, it depends on how you want to look at schools, to 28 schools that have Will McLean's, that have Bryant's, that have oil burners. You have to have a potpourri of people that know how to deal with, forced hot water, steam, oil, etc.
So the next question on my list is it time for facilities department specifically, either a facilities department for the city or at least a facilities department specifically for that high school? I think you just said
for that high
need
school.
to create something for the high school.
Right, for the high school.
What about for the whole for the city as a whole? Is it time to kind of reconfigure and get the school side and city side, DPWs, facilities departments working together?
But once again, you get into the union piece, you get into who actually has control over whom. I would think that, yes, we should. But with the custodians on one side, with only the schools, and then our DPW folks, they work well together, but they don't communicate. They communicate well together. They work well together, but there's not one central person that's in charge of them.
The union piece, different unions?
Different unions, yeah.
So, and I would imagine who you report to is
that's correct.
Is part of the
So
the contract. So to do this, you'd need to at next union negotiations, you would need to know ahead of time. And
I think that, and I'm doing this from memory here, I think there's about 105 or 102 custodians that are under UTL. So we don't even negotiate with them. I don't have anything to do with that negotiation piece. That's on the schools. But I mean, and so when we're looking for the custodians to do something different or something, that's where the challenge comes in.
Okay. All right. It's an explanation. People wondering, it should be easy, just merge these, but it
should be.
But you will create some specific personnel that will be dedicated to that high school complex and be familiar, and they're going to need to get trained on.
Yeah, no, we're going to have to go out and just hire specifically for that school. And that's something that we've been looking to do. But once again, it's a financial decision to have a campus, somebody in charge of that campus. We have to figure this out. That's a job that's going to be anywhere between probably $110,000 to $140,000 with this is what I'm thinking in my head with the ability to do A, B, and C. And there's a whole list of a job description about that person that would be in charge of doing things like that. And that person's going to probably have minimum to start two to three people working. So that campus is big enough to host, I would probably guess, 5 or 6 people.
Remember that old song, "Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys"? Mommies and daddies, let them grow up to get into these trades and get their training now on the new equipment, because that's where jobs are going to be in the future.
When people think about this new equipment, it is so different than what, my heating system is 30 years old. It's Will McLean. It's in my basement. It's still running at 84%, which is phenomenal. But my brother-in-law is a plumber, plumbing expert. So he's down there mixing it and cleaning it and doing whatever the heck they do with it. But I mean, some of these larger items, you need a degree in some HVAC, stuff that I look at, and I to be quite frank with you, I couldn't tell you how to turn the darn thing on when you see it.
Before moving on, I want to also mention, as we go back to Waltham High School, one of the things there, if they open the bleachers all the way, they lose the basketball court, so they can't. So Waltham had this tremendous home court advantage. They were proud of it. I think they're the Hawks, which they've lost, and people are not happy about that. So it's not just Lowell High. Still, it doesn't mean we shouldn't fight to get the best finished product, because we took shortcuts in the 80s.
Correct.
And look what happened.
Once again, it is something that every day I wake up to try to see how we can make this city better, what we can do, how we can strive to perfection. We fall short again, we wake up the next morning and we try to go at it. And I really think that the team we have been putting together over the past 2.5 years, is that team that's going to bring us into into a new Lowell, in the sense of the amount of monies, the roadway projects that we've been doing, the parks that are coming online. I think that we're really doing it. But let's not make a mistake about this. This is doing it because this council has had really the guts to allow me to raise, and people don't want to talk about this, raise fees, raise taxes, raise things that are actually going to make a difference. And Lowell is still, and I will argue all day, Lincoln, Douglas debate this all day long, Lowell is still the most affordable area around here, from contiguous cities and towns. We still have about a $13 million, $13 million of untaxable monies that are out there that we could have been taxing, and we haven't been. So I get a lot of heat for that, but you know something? We've spent probably close to $30 million on our horizontal construction. We're attacking our, we have an OPM right now that we're waiting on the final report for our firehouses. We have problems over in our police department that we want to make sure that all of our facilities are up to par. That costs money.
All right. You mentioned the tax rate. I'm going to go back to that when we resume the things you're getting your balls kicked in about. But I do want to talk about something.
Can you say
that? It's not radio. I can do it. It's the internet. I can say that. I can say all sorts of words, but I won't. I'll keep it because you're wearing a suit. You know, I mean, I'm in my John Fetterman hoodie over here. Let's talk about something positive that I still, and talked about this with the mayor last week. I still get the sense a lot of people don't understand the potential of this front runner city.
Yes.
You are currently in negotiations with, was it UN representatives or some representative?
So how it works is, I mean, everyone I think knows the UN, United Nations. So outside the United Nations, you have the UN economy, the UN, health, and et cetera, et cetera. There's one thing called UN habitat. Habitat meaning exactly what it sounds like, the habitat that you live in, the habitat, the community that you live in, how to make it better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it really starts with a conversation. And quite frankly, it starts with the guts to have the conversation. And I have to give the credit where credit is due. Mayor Rourke had the guts to have the conversation. Okay. He was invited to go someplace, and everybody always thinks when you go to these places, oh my God, it's like a vacation. I can promise you, I've been on, what you would refer to as junkets and all this other business.
He told me he was staying in a dorm room.
It's not exactly what you think it is. I mean, you do get to go to a different city. You do get, a tour of someone, driving you around, a dashboard tour, for instance. Hey, that's what we did over here. And that's kind of interesting if that's what blows your hair back. But it takes time out of your life. It takes time out of, but this is what you do. And, the ability to do that and the ability to follow up on it, once again, I have to give the mayor all the kudos. And then furthermore, all of the councils, I know for a fact, every councilor wanted to go on that trip. Every councilor. But due to family, due to life, due to other things, a few couldn't make it. But we brought 7 councilors up on that trip. The UN Habitat folk, and I'm going to, because that's the brand name. There's a whole bunch of there's other names underneath it. But that group was so impressed that we brought that many people up to Toronto to start to talk, to learn, etc. This, I've used this term before, explosive. The explosive opportunity that is here is second to none. It really, truly is. And even with Link, who knows, this could be helpful with Link. This is something that is a game changer. And it really starts with the mayor, the council, asking informing or telling the administration to enter into an MOU with this organization. We've been talking to the organization. Nothing happens, overnight. My hope is that sometime in March, this MOU, I'd have something to be able to present. We have to look legally. They have to look legally. But what it really ends up coming down to, and it's an investment in, once again, inside the wheelhouse that I'm very comfortable with, finances, property, expansion, any type of building. I'm very comfortable in this world. It comes down to financing. That is the number one. You could do anything if you have money. You can do anything if you are lucky enough to get an interest rate, the difference between an 8% interest rate to build and a 5, a 4, a 3, or 2, or 1. You can do anything in the world if you wish. And that is really the easiest way to move this forward. Sure, the SDGs, the sustainability goals that they push, that Massachusetts, the city of Lowell, is already heavily invested in, and it's stuff that we all agree on. It's easy stuff.
Okay, I was going to say, I've looked at what the 17 goals are, and I don't see, I was told, well, watch out for this 15-minute cities thing and some of the other things that the right-wingers are losing their mind over. Right. None of that is mentioned in any of what I have seen online. Is this part of the negotiations you're having?
Yes. So all of the stuff that we're doing is we want to make Lowell a walkable city. We want to make neighborhoods work together. We don't, we've proved it. When I mentioned to them when we were up there, the fact that we had already taken on the Shaughnessy Terrace, which is now River's Edge, they were in awe that we did that. Absolute awe, because what we did is we took what the old sociology term, I think it was shelving, I believe. We put everybody and just said, okay, you're poor, you go here. We don't do that in the city of Lowell. We integrate folk. We have everybody all over the place, and wind development is one of my favorite organizations to talk about. What they have done down in the Hamilton Canal District, where they do a third of people, and I'm making their numbers up, 0 to 30% of FPL, 30 to 60, 60 to 90. So they have that third, a third, and a third. And that works so well. I mean, Wind Development does it right. And I'm not saying that others don't, but larger organizations like Heritage, they do it right. People that we're really, I think, on the precipice of explosiveness with this. And it really comes down to financing. We have the ideas, we have the know-how, we know what we want to do, but it comes down to financing. And if the UN Habitat, along with the World Bank, can help us with this financing, I think the next 2 to 3 to 4, 5 years to 10 years is going to be something that we're all going to be proud of.
Okay, but when I hear that you're entering negotiations, negotiations usually are a give and take.
Yes.
What does the city of Lowell have to give? Or as I asked the mayor, what's the catch in this? Because it sounds so good that there's a catch.
I'm
right?
still here. I hope my friends at the UN don't watch this, but I'm still here.
There's a catch.
I'm always arm's length until we get to the final piece, and it's exciting. It's what's the catch? And I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say there isn't one, because the UN's goal is to have better communities. The UN's goal, or UN Habitat, is to look at a community from the smallest point and explode outward, right? So they figure if you have, in this particular area, Regent Park we're at, Regent Park was a rundown area up in Toronto, and they went in, they reimagined it, and it started from a small nucleus, from 1 building to 2 buildings to 3 buildings to 4 buildings to 5 buildings, etc. Now, when you go right outside of their new zone, you can see what Regent Park looked like, because they're still developing outwards. So that's probably the best way to see it. And they're not looking, it's a very different world when you're, and there's another organization that does this that I don't, it's actually the Cummings Foundation. This is their mantra. The Cummings Foundation, they're able to go in and build a building, and instead of turning it around, and this is an example, I'm not speaking for Cummings by any stretch, but most people will say, I need to get my return back in 3, 5, or 7 years. An organization like the Cummings Foundation, maybe it's 9, maybe it's 11, maybe it's different. It's different because what they do is they build to change a community. And then when they change the community, when they finally break even, the remaining monies, their words, not mine, go into the foundation. So they're not trying to really, quote unquote, make money. If that sounds crazy in a capitalistic way, that sounds crazy.
Well, they're a nonprofit. It's a very unique organization.
Right.
It's a nonprofit. Yes, somebody's getting some money. You're not going to put up hundreds of millions if you're not going to get your money back. But they're not a business that's looking to make their profit in 3 to 5 years and get the hell out.
The property management company, and I know this because we passed on, the organization that was once affiliated with, we did everything on a 5-year. Now, we stretched it sometimes to 6 because we liked the property or something to that effect. Okay. But never in a million years with the partners that I have dealt with would have said, oh, well, if it's 10 years, if we make our money back in 10 years, that's okay. Because they didn't have the capital to do it. Would they do it? They probably would. But someone like the Cummings Foundation, which is just a phenomenal foundation, and they do great work. We talked often trying to get them to, get interested here in the city of Lowell.
Your predecessors have been working on Cummings. Is this the type of thing that might entice Cummings to come to Lowell?
But Cummings, they self-finance. So they already have that,
Gotcha.
1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. And I'm not talking I don't know what their percentages really are. I'm just giving the example. Giving the example of Tom Golden building something, I have to borrow money at 8%. Most developers do. When you borrow that money at 8%, and if you're a big wheel, maybe you're borrowing at 6.5%, but that delta is still not enough. If and when we can get this organization to come in and the World Bank is borrowing money, or they're loaning money out at 1% and 3%, that is a huge game changer. And this is something where we're negotiating, we're discussing with the SDGs we've discussed, which are the walkability and all the positive things. I encourage everyone to look at this. All of that positive stuff. This is stuff that we can get behind because Lowell does work like this. When we were meeting, I was talking about the relationship we have with UMass Lowell. Julie Chen and I were just together yesterday. Phil Sisson and I at Middlesex Community College were on the phone last week. These relationships happen. And even from the UN standpoint, they were like, so you could get us in to talk to the chancellor of the university. I said, Yeah. Yes, that's I was kind of perplexed.
That's the easy part.
I was perplexed by the question. I said, how about the president of the university? And they're like, the president of you could. I said, once again, yes. And so you talk to these folks on a regular basis. I'm like, 100%. It's hand in glove.
Does it not work like that in Canada?
It doesn't work like that anywhere that they were talking about. They really were talking about how unique. Now, they don't know if I'm telling the truth at all. I'm just telling them, sure, we can, but anyone that's listening to your podcast, anyone that is knows this, knows the relationship between the city and the university has probably never been stronger. The relationship between myself and Middlesex Community College, I don't think has ever been stronger. And all of this is real. This is really happening. And they are in awe that these conversations can happen, because normally, and I don't want to down any other community or throw shade on them, but one of the gentlemen that we're talking about, his own hometown, he knows the mayor, he knows Mayor Panos, he knows the other mayor. They can't get him to the table because there's this constant bickering back and forth. And the one thing in politics and government that I know is true, that nobody wants to hear it. They don't want to hear that Mayor Panos and Manager Golden don't get along. That's not of interest to them. They want things done appropriately. They want people to work together. And this whole infighting, quite frankly, people are interested in it for comedy relief at times. But when it comes to actually getting something done, put your egos aside, put it all aside. What is the better position? What can the city should be doing? What should it be? What should you be doing? And that gets back to the point that I, mentioned earlier. Every morning I wake up, we strive for perfection. We're going to fall short, and we're going to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah. So when I first talked about this front runner city thing and reported, someone told me this could be worth hundreds of millions. Think it could be the size of Link. Link is an $800 million project. The mayor, your cousin, by the way, sat right there
Who by the way, I fight with more than anyone.
Yeah, I've seen it on a few occasions. He threw the B word out there. Billions.
He's 100% correct.
So this is potentially a bigger thing than Link.
100% correct. No, but I think it could, once again, in meeting just with the chancellor yesterday, okay, we're trying to figure out how UN Habitat, once it's completed. Now, once again, this is all 60 days away from this, right? These negotiations are actively happening. We're talking. I mean, if I hear about the Buffalo Bills one more time from my counterpart here, because he's a big Buffalo Bill fan and wants to know where the New England Patriots are, that's another thing. But we're creating that personal relationship. Is let's get off the baloney, right? Where can we go? What can we do? What do you need? Let's get to work. And I'll tell you what. After we get over the Buffalo Bills and the Patriots and all that stuff, these folks they transfer to work immediately. We were talking to people up in Canada from around the world. They thought it was important enough to talk to the city of Lowell with all of the folks there to zoom in from around the world, where it was in some aspects 10 p.m. at night, 4 in the morning. These and I say professionals were all over the world doing this work. They, for whatever reason, and that could be another podcast, they've been turned away in the United States. It's going to be a challenge. Because
I've asked why Lowell, why
because of the mayor.
They couldn't go to New York or Los Angeles or Houston or Boston. Boston even is a half hour away.
Because it starts with a conversation. Okay, the mayor took the opportunity to have a conversation. He took the opportunity to go up to Canada to travel, right? And everyone, once again, I say this, and yes, you have a lot of laughs. You learn a lot about people when you travel. I've done it a lot. But it's not exactly all, you're not whooping it up, having a good time. You're out of your element, you're learning something, etc. But he took the opportunity to go up there, learn about it, follow up, have a meeting, come back. We talked about it, talked with these individuals, found out that it would be very beneficial for us to bring as many councils as we could. We did that. We made that happen. It really started with a conversation that was started by Mayor Rourke.
All right. Good stuff indeed. All right, let me go back to kicking your balls in the last couple of minutes we have remaining. Snow removal. I'm seeing a lot of social media posts. We barely had any snow. We had one little Saturday storm, but even before that, people saying that you're not hitting the streets, you're not doing the job. And I'm going to throw the specific criticism is all the poor neighborhoods are getting shafted.
I live in Centerville, so I haven't seen that.
Yeah, but you're in the rich part of Centerville.
Yeah, I'm up there.
You're not low. You're not down.
I grew up in I grew up in Centerville.
You're not down by the river. You grew up on the hill.
No, I grew up in Centerville.
Did you?
and to all of my friends that are on Christian Hill, they're like, "Now you live on the hill." I go, "I live in Centerville."
Why do people seem so unhappy with the snow removal in the city? Did you guys fail in the Saturday snowstorm?
Well, the last storm, it was supposed to be a dusting, and it changed. So
yeah, well,
what we do when we forecast, well, we don't forecast. We have 3 different companies, 3 different organizations, weather services that say, this is what we're doing. And how we run that is, quite frankly, that was on a dusting. We still had, I think, and I might have the numbers wrong, we had 16 people in that was spreading salt, right? We take care of the main drags first, and then all of a sudden it turned into something more that it was supposed to be. So now you just can't snap your fingers and call in another 20 folks. This takes time. So to the people that, my apologies, of course, but if it were something that we're always reacting to the weather, because if we brought in 30 folks, and this has happened, this has happened, we've brought in 15 to 20 folks, ready to rock and roll, all the trucks are loaded, and it starts to rain. Well, you know something? Those men and women took time out of their day. They're sitting there waiting, and we're paying them 4 times 15 people, 4 hours whack as it rains. And that happens. It absolutely does.
Yeah, because school got canceled one day last year, and I believe you may have even instituted a parking ban.
Yes,
and we got absolutely
we were going to get smoked, if you remember. We're going to get clobbered with this, and we're like, well, we're going to try to get ahead of this. We're going to try to get ahead of this. People need a plan, and it didn't snow a bit. I don't even know if it rained. The Alberta Clipper came in and whisked it away. So, I mean, to the people that complain about it, my apologies, but if I think I'm coming back as a weatherman my next time around. They get this wrong all the time. We subscribe to 3 different services, and we try to shoot the gip and try to figure out what to do.
Yeah, Noah was the last guy who 100% predicted the weather correct. What's the tax rate look like for the upcoming year?
We are in process actually right now.
You have an idea, right, by this point?
I'm always going to say that, the norm is always 2.5%. And given the fact of where groceries are, and I ask people to always look at this, is the fact that when your costs at home are going up, whether it be gas, oil, electricity, healthcare, whatever the case is, the city's the same. The city is the exact same. So when you're moving up, so is the city. So I don't foresee any... We were very aggressive in the beginning, and I still thank the council for taking, and I say courageous, those are hard votes to take. Once again, I've been doing not just government for 30 years, but I've also had a private business where you have to raise prices, and it's not easy to do, especially when you're that guy telling people. And the council has really given me that opportunity. Do I foresee anything above 2.5%? Could we? Sure. Will we? No. We won't. I mean, we'll stay with what the norm is around the towns, and it'd be in and around that 2.5%.
So you think about 2.5% this year?
Yeah, which I consider like a flat. I don't consider that an increase. I consider that the cost of doing business.
A lot of city councilors running for re-election going to be happy about that.
It's definitely. I can tell you this: I wouldn't do it to them again. I wouldn't do it to the taxpayers again. I did it the first year, and I still say that it was the right thing to do. Remember, I have to pay these as well. My family all lives in the city.
Yeah, but you make a lot more than the average Lowell citizen.
I do, but believe it's the best 6.5-day job I've ever had. And I don't complain about it. I love it. But a lot of my family members all live in the city, all pay this as well, and they do tell me about it. It matters. It matters what we do. But you know something, we want to be the best that we can be.
All right. And I want to end with a bit of feedback from yesterday's show, Mike and Lowell, our buddy Batch. We were talking with Liam Skinner about the school money and if what happens to money if the budget's been, done so efficiently that there's extra money at the end of the year. And he basically answered, we have to spend it or we will spend it. Batch says, of course, there's no concern. When has any school department worried about taxpayer dollars? When is the point going to come that government will get so efficient that they'll be able to either scale back on taxes significantly, or in the case, let's look at some of this development. Link is going to bring you at some point, 3, 4, 5 years, $600 million in private development, $800 million overall. This front runner city thing could result in $1 billion plus of development. Right. Is there come a point for the city of Lowell where the taxpayers will start to see the benefit of this in their tax bill? And I don't mean they're not going to get a 5% increase, they're going to get a 2.5% increase, but they may get a 1% increase or a 0% increase.
I think that, and that's a very good point, but I think the 0% that had happened in the past caused some of the problems we're in today. It's important to note that the city of Lowell can put it this way: the tax levy. Excuse me for one moment. The tax levy in every city and town, Chelmsford, Drake, et cetera, they're all at their tax levy max. What does that mean? They are taxing at the absolute max. The city of Lowell is still taxing $14 million below where it could be. So that makes the affordability factor.
Still, even with the higher than normal increases from the last couple of years,
Correct.
right?
And if it's not 14, it's 13.2.
Okay.
It's going to be in that number. So in total, and this is not going to happen, I'm going to say this, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. We could tax another $13 million without going over any of our Prop 2.5. The towns and other cities are at their levy limit. We are below our levy limit. We're 13.8, I'm calling it 14. $14 million below our tax levy limit. We could go higher. So what I'm saying is in years past, when you're at 0%, that actually hurts us into the future, right? We have gone through a very aggressive campaign to keep people here in the city. And the reason that we did is because we raised salaries. We're in competition now. Quite frankly, I would say we're head and shoulders above the competition right now. People want to come to work for the city of Lowell. When I first got here, there was over 80 jobs posted. Right now, we're in the low teens. Excuse me, Teddy, I apologize. And the low teens for a reason. People retire. Teddy retires in the beginning of January. This is a famous time to, for people to start to decide to leave service. And so we'll have money, free cash, where we're not paying Teddy Panos from January to June. And that will be money that will come back to us in the form of what would be called free cash. So we are still the most affordable option. I challenge, once again, anybody on that. I understand when we raise taxes, it just tweaks, another $200, another $300 for folks. And for people on fixed incomes, that's a challenge. That's a real problem.
Yeah, Lowell's median income is very low. It's hard to compare Lowell to a Chelmsford or Tewksbury, whatever. But in comparison to a Lawrence, how close is a Lawrence or a Haverhill or a Brockton or even a Boston to their levy? Are they as low as below the levy as Lowell is?
For instance,
or are they at the max too?
I would have to look, but most cities are usually below their levy limit because they're trying to be as affordable as possible. But when you're not taxing to a levy, when you're not able to do things like, we're probably by the end of this year in 2025, we may be $30 million, I bet you, about roadway projects, where before we were spending about $2.5 to $3 million. And the proof will be there. The proof is there. We're seeing the investments that we're making right now. In our, we had a sidewalk, and these are the things that people realize right out of the gate. We had a study done. Our sidewalks that we currently have, not the ones that we need, currently have, we're $65 million in deficiency that need to be fixed. Our firehouses, people talk about firehouses, right? I'm proud to say that under the administration in this council, we're still in the process of buying brand new trucks, and we need to do that. We're going to be looking to say, when do we need to buy them again? So this doesn't happen in the future for people where we have, these trucks are $650,000 to about $1.1 million. They're not cheap, but the firehouses need to be done. We have an OPM that's working on that currently right now. This is going to be, I think in the next few years, an unprecedented amount of money that is spent on all of our facilities. Having that facilities department is an idea. How do we do it? We're going to start at the high school first. We're going to have those 2 or 3 people, 4 people. I'd love to have 5, but we'd have to figure out budgetarily, what are we going to do while holding the tax rate? But bringing back what you're saying in regards to the Link project, as regards to UN Habitat, all that money will bring in additional money. Can that relax? Can that satisfy? Can that relax some of the tax increases of the future? It can. However, a lot of projects also require TIFs and ties, tax incentive programs and things of that nature. So the thought process on a TIF and a tie, just really quickly, I know we're running out of time, is right now this particular piece of land, pick any land, any piece you want, is generating $0 or generating $1,000 of taxes. Well, if you give the TIF and the tie, now you're going to get, say, $2,000. That's a 100% increase. And I'm using a fictitious number. That's a 100% increase, but then we're going to try to help the developer by lowering that. And that's what you need to do, because we're not in Cambridge. Cambridge doesn't give TIFs and ties, not that, to my knowledge, because they don't have to. We need to kind of aggressively market and try get people here so they can come in, so they can have lunch, so they can have a cup of coffee.
Right. The idea is even with the TIF, you create enough economic activity
Spin-off.
where,
Right. You know,
where you're making up some of that.
anytime we can spend $1 to get $1.10 back. You know, sometimes you'll read these economic forecasts, and as the chair of the Convention and Visitors Bureau years ago, they used to say, for every dollar you spend, you get $7 back. I never believed it. You know,
Settle for $2.
I would settle for $1.10. You know, spend $1 and get $1.10 back, and that was always my argument. Are we spending the money in the right direction that says, hey, I'm going to go there? And, you know, the marketing proposal that we have moving forward right now, all of that stuff that hopefully you'll see more of, selling the city. We need to sell the city. We need to consistently do it, but that costs money.
All right. I'm going to leave it there. You're the first guy to go over an hour with.
Oh, I apologize.
But you usually do. That's all right. No, I need to talk about snow removal and tax credits. But there is a lot of good stuff happening. I really think that people have not caught on yet to what this front runner city thing.
This is, like I said, explosive is going to be, that's the opportunity right there.
And you say that even after you've been in negotiations.
Yes.
So whatever the catch isn't bad enough where you've soured.
I haven't. No, not at all. And
not yet.
Between Link, between the UN habitat, I think that we're really poised in a good way to move forward.
All right, we'll leave it there. City Manager Tom Golden, thank you for joining us on the Daily Pulse. Thank you for joining us here on the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. Tomorrow, the auditor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Diana 𝐤𝐤𝐬𝐤, will join us by Zoom. The Attorney General responding to some comments by the auditor. We'll see what the auditor has to say. The state Senate, the state House, not exactly rushing to comply with the new law that you passed. What are the options for the auditor? What is she looking for? What is it that she's trying to accomplish? We'll get into all of that with her. On Friday, we'll talk to our friend Jo Marie Buckley. She'll be joining us. She's got some political news from the town of Tewksbury, and we got some Big Fun Friday stuff to talk about as well. Good stuff happening every day here on the Daily Pulse. It drops at noon, but as we like to say here at Inside Lowell, you can catch it whenever, on your schedule, not ours. Until next time, everybody stay safe and stay warm out there.